when you look at what is taking place again currently here in the country, and you look at, seeing our young brothers, being gunned down in the streets.
Yo.
Silas, John, Lavantil, in these rural areas, you'd ask a question, why is this happening? But not knowing that these things are biblical prophecies.
I.S.U.P.K.
Anyway, my dogs go in on the street, them bad. Gun talking up with jeans member. If any somebody ever treat them bad, send the pussy them but meet them God. Louis V kicks pan we feed them bad. Catch a new drip, dog we beat them bad. Look how we just come and we a beat them bad. You know sister we is them dad. Hey, but anyway though, this a no playground. The Glock 19, they have to stay round. Nah take no check with me payroll. Anything rise up.
Because why? We have turned our backs again from, serving the Most High God. And this is why today, we are going to bring out, the meaning of prophecy. What is a prophecy? And throughout the Bible, our records, the men of old, or the prophets of old, always prophesy against, these other nations and against, religious leaders for not bringing this truth out. And, for us as a people and as a nation to turn back to these laws, statutes, and commandments. So we're just going to give a little definition of prophecy, right? Prophecy, foretelling, right? To tell beforehand, and the prophets of old used to foretell all these records or these stories, and just like our forefathers used to bring out in the time of old, they used to warn us beforehand that what is going to befall us. And even, our forefather, or again the father of the nation of Israel, or Jacob, which, everyone would know him by, his name was changed from Jacob to Israel. And, he brought this warning, to his 12 sons and give them warning and tell them, hey, this shall befall you in these last days. And we're going to go to the records, right? Give me Deuteronomy 28 and 1.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 1. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth.
And this was, the forefather Moses beforehand, bringing this to the nation of Israel, or these 12 tribes. Because why? These were warning. And as he brought forth, in the beginning of the chapter, he reminded us that, this would be our blessings in the sight of all nations, that we would be above them. But look at our condition today in Silots, John, Lavantil, even in the rural streets, again, in the city, Labre, Point 14, all these areas. Look at us, look at our condition. And why? Because, again, these other nations had already stigmatized us or put us, separated us from them. And this is why now, in these last days, we must be separated. These reminders must be brought out, right? Read it again from the top, Baba Kosha.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 1. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God.
And it say, it shall come to pass. What is a prophecy? Something that is told beforehand. Right? Go ahead.
And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth.
And the Lord had said this, and Moses, again, who was in charge of the nation of Israel. And this is why, again, Commanding General YAHANNA is the only man given the authority in the earth to bring back blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians to their identity. And this is why, again, when you hear other, religious organizations, speaking about what is taking place, Now you should ask the question, where did you learn this from? And it will come straight back to 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General YAHANNA, right? So now the Lord said that he will set us above high, above all these nations of the face of the earth, if we adhere to these commandments. 28 and 15.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments and statutes, which I command thee this day, all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
And this is what we see happen right now. Right now. That these curses have come upon us and overtaken us because of one thing, because of not adhering to these rules and regulations, but because of not adhering to this prophecy. Because why? Our forefathers of old, they have always prophesied and warned us as children to refrain from celebrating these holidays of these oppressors, from celebrating their feast days, because as again the scriptures say that the Most High hate and despise, their solemn assembly, and he would not, be partaken of, birthdays, Christmas, New Year's, all these holidays, that was put upon us as a nation, as a people, to be or to oppress us or to push us far away from serving the Most High God or power. And this is why it says in Deuteronomy chapter 28, if we don't adhere to these laws, statutes, and commandments, that all these curses are going to come upon us and overtake us and pursue us. Because anywhere we go, we are followed by these curses. Because now the first thing that you would hear, blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians making mention in a way, like I curse, what going on with me? Like I do something wrong. And we are reading out of the records because why? We did something wrong. The wrong that we did is turning away from these laws, statutes, and commandments. Turning away from following what the Most High said before us as a people and as a nation, that we should come back to these laws, statutes, and commandments. Right? Give me the Matthew.
The book of Matthew, chapter 13 and 13. Therefore speak I to them in parables, because seeing, see not, and hearing, they hear not.
And this is our King Yahushua, or what you will know as Jesus Christ speaking, because he said, seeing, they see not. Go ahead.
I can't. And hearing, they hear not.
And hearing, they hear not. Why it is that these curses keep on pursuing us? Why it is that these curses keep on overtaking us? Because why? We keep not adhering to these records. And this is why we say, always remind our brothers and sisters that this whole house or the churches and them that you attend to, they have no knowledge about this truth. Because why? They would hide these records from you, and they would join you to all of our oppressors. They'll join you to the East Indian. They'll join you to the Chinese. They'll join you to the white man. And this is why you must come away from these religious organizations. Because why? Religion was set up, to keep you to the bottom of society, to keep you cursed. And this is why, again, you must come back to these laws, statutes, and commandments. All right, Babu Koshal, start from the beginning again.
The book of Matthew, chapter 13 and 13. Therefore speak I to them in parables, because they see not. So like it, because they seeing, see not, and hearing, they hear not, neither do they understand. Right. Verse 14. And in them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah, which said, by hearing ye shall hear, and shall not understand, and seeing ye shall see, and not perceive.
And why? Now we make mention to the prophet Isaiah. And this is why, again, we remind our brothers and sisters that to come out of these religious organizations. Because now, you know what I will tell you? That the old was done away with. And this is Christ, or King, Yahushua, speaking or quoting from the old. Because why? The new was not in existence until this time now. Now we had the entirety of these records, whereby we could come out and bring these reminders in these last days. Because why? If we don't, these curses will come upon us and pursue us and overtake us. Go ahead.
Verse 15. For this people's heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing.
Read that again.
For this people's heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing.
And this people's ears are waxed gross, and their ears are hard of hearing. And this is why we are out here in the streets of Port of Spain. Because why? Because our people's ears have waxed again and hard of hearing. But hear this. This is why the prophet Ezekiel make mention of this. The Most High reminded them what to do. Go ahead.
The book of Ezekiel chapter 3 and verse 1. Moreover, he said unto me, Son of man, eat that thou findest, eat this roll, and go speak unto the house of Israel.
And when he make mention, he told him to eat the roll. He was talking about the study. And this is why the scripture said to study thyself to show approve unto God. A workman rightly dividing the word. And this is what Commandant General YAHANNA have been doing since 1969. Teaching brothers and sisters, reminding them to come back to their heritage, to come back to their culture. And this is why the prophets are all alive today. That they could bring forth this message and bring forth this news, reminding brothers and sisters to come back to their heritage, come back to their culture, come back to their custom. Because why? Go ahead.
Verse 2. So I opened my mouth, and he caused me to eat the roll. And he said unto me, Son of man, cause thy belly to eat, and fill thy bowels with this roll that I give thee.
Right? And he said, cause thy belly to eat. Because now after studying, just as you know, our brothers and sisters study how much years in university, study to be that doctor, study to be that lawyer, study to be that, again, that physician or that medical practitioner. They have studied because why? They were pursuing at something. And this is what, you know, the prophet Ezekiel did. And the instructions given it to him by the Most High God. Go ahead.
Okay. Then did I eat it, and was in my mouth as honey for sweetness. And he said unto me, Son of man, go, get thee unto the house of Israel, and speak with my words unto them.
And Ezekiel, given the instruction, he said, go, get thee unto the house of Israel. Who is the house of Israel today? Look around you, blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. See who have been shut down or gunned down in these streets. See who is at the bottom of society today. See who is being oppressed. See who have no authority or no ownership of this franchise. You are the one, blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. And this is why, again, we must come back to these laws, statutes, and commandments. And this is why we was given the authority, again, under the Most High, under our King YAHWEHSHAI, with the instructions of Commandant General YAHANNA, to come out here in the streets of Port of Spain, to speak to our brothers and sisters, to remind them to come back to these laws, statutes, and commandments, to come back to your heritage, to come back to knowing who you are, because your identity have been stripped from you for over 400 years in this society. This kingdom have stripped you of your identity, and this is why you need to come back to these laws, statutes, and commandments.
Listen well to what I tell. No calling can cause pain. Something that a rebel knows very well. Can't you tell I was sent from the Lord?